So did you hear about the designer babies? Check out Mind Unveiled. They have very good information about the designer babies. No one's talking about the designer babies in the emails. No one's talking about that. Let's talk about it.
And what about in America? Well, there's a fraternal order that many have never heard of. They're called the Odd Fellows. Similar to Freemasons, but with a completely different purpose. Funded by royalty, their symbols include the all-seeing eye, the fasces, skull and bones, and they were the ones that ran the orphanages in America in the 19th century. They ran the asylums. Their founder, Thomas Wildey, was himself an orphan. Orphans grooming the next generation of orphans. And they did all of this under the name of philanthropy. Now, if you follow the channel, you already know what I'm about to show you. But for those who don't, there are thousands of postcards from the 1890s to the 1910s that nobody talks about. They show babies being grown in cabbage patches, babies being harvested from gardens, babies arriving on trains, babies being pulled from water with hooks and nets, and some that literally say in French, "Nous sommes à vendre," we are for sale. These aren't art projects, these aren't cute jokes. There are thousands of these across Europe and America, and they depict a production line, a repopulation operation. The woman in the red is their handler. The men in the top hats pay for them. Familiar, right? This is the real history behind the Cabbage Patch Kids, and it's even in their lore. A story about babies being grown in a garden, delivered by a stork in uniform, while an evil witch tries to enslave them for labor. Nobody really ever questioned where that story came from. In 1881, a French doctor attached to a foundling hospital built the first baby incubator. He modeled it on a chicken hatchery. Within a decade, baby incubators filled with live premature infants were exhibited at world's fairs across Europe and America. The medical journal that covered it wrote, quote, "It is just as essential in raising men and women as it is raising any kind of stock," end quote. And in 1896, at the same Paris World Fair that showcased those incubators, the first narrative film ever made premiered, Le Fée aux Choux, The Fairy of the Cabbages. A woman pulling babies from a cabbage patch and handing them to couples who pay a farmer. The first movie ever made was about selling babies, and it was created to promote the incubators. Then came the trains. Between 1854 and 1929, over 200,000 children were loaded onto orphan trains and shipped from East Coast cities to the Midwest and West. 72% of them had at least one living parent. They weren't orphans, they were taken. Their names were changed, their records destroyed. They were displayed at train stations and then chosen by families. And then we're just told to forget everything about where they come from. So to put that together, foundling hospitals funded by elite with fertility goddesses on their seals, a secret fraternity running the orphanages, thousands of postcards advertising babies for sale, incubators modeled on chicken hatcheries at world fairs. The first movie ever made is about producing and selling babies, and 200,000 children were shipped across the continent with their identities erased. Now look at what I just showed you in these documents. Shell companies declaring DNA analysis, CRISPR gene editing, fertility doctors, egg harvesting, AI processing, forced pregnancies, babies taken, women trafficked through international pipelines and brought to genetics meetings, and $167 million routed through one man's shell company to a Rothschild bank. The same banking dynasty that's been at the center of European finance since the foundling hospitals were built. The same operation, different century. The only thing that changed is the technology.